The breaking point. Commander Ilara Voss stood at the observation deck of the Terran diplomatic vessel Concordia, gazing at the shimmering artificial rings that encircled the massive space station known as the Nexus. For 70 years, this had been humanity's connection to the greater galactic community, the physical embodiment of Earth's membership in the Galactic Council. The crystalline structure housed representatives from over 300 species, all united under the banner of cooperation and shared prosperity. Or so they claimed. "They're ready for us, Commander," said Lieutenant Mason Reed, her second in command. His usually cheerful face was drawn tight with concern. "Are we really going through with this?" Ilara straightened her midnight blue uniform adorned with the silver Earth insignia, a stylized globe with a single star above it. "We are," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within. 17 billion lives depend on it. The council chamber was an architectural marvel, a perfect sphere suspended in zero gravity, with 300 crystalline platforms arranged in concentric rings. At the center floated the speaker's podium, currently occupied by High Speaker Xalaran, an ancient Vordaci with metallic scales that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. "The motion regarding system designation Novus Prime has been decided," Xalaran announced, his multi-tone voice resonating through the chamber. "By a vote of 217 to 83, the Council has determined that the quantum destabilization requires immediate intervention through Protocol 94. Ilara felt her blood run cold. Protocol 94 meant the complete evacuation and subsequent sterilization of a planet's surface through targeted energy bombardment. Novus Prime was home to 17 billion human colonists. "Speaker Xalaran," Ilara called out, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Earth requests emergency reconsideration. Our scientists have submitted evidence that the quantum destabilization is localized and poses no threat to neighboring systems." Xalaran's compound eyes blinked in a slow, deliberate pattern. "The evidence was considered, Representative Voss. The decision stands. You're condemning 17 billion humans to death," Ilara said, her voice rising, "for a phenomenon that our data shows will stabilize within 8 months. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The bulbous Krith representative floated forward on its gravity disk. The human data was determined to be optimistic. It hummed through its translator. "Our models suggest a 78% chance of cascading destabilization within 3 cycles. Based on what?" Lieutenant Reed demanded. "We've requested your data models for 5 months and received nothing but vague assurances." "This is a Category Prime decision," Xalaran replied with a dismissive gesture. "Implementation begins in 60 days. Earth is welcome to evacuate as many colonists as possible before then." Ilara felt something break inside her, not in defeat, but in clarity. 8 years of negotiations, compromises, and diplomatic smiles, all while watching humanity's concerns be systematically dismissed or overruled. "Speaker Xalaran," she said, her voice cutting through the chamber, "if the Council proceeds with Protocol 94 against Novus Prime, Earth will withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber erupted in sound. Some representatives shouted in their native languages, others demanded order. Xalaran struck the resonating crystal beside the podium, sending a wave of silence across the room. "You cannot withdraw," said Elder Veloxian, the ancient Marini representative. "No species has ever left the Council." "Because none have ever tried," Ilara replied. "We've searched your charter thoroughly. There is no provision preventing withdrawal." "This is emotional human impulsiveness," hissed Sark, the Thraxi delegate. "You would sacrifice thousands of years of technological sharing over one colony." Ilara stepped forward, addressing the entire chamber. "This isn't about one colony. This is about 8 years of having humanity's voice ignored. This is about our proposals for aid to developing worlds being dismissed 63 times. This is about trade agreements that consistently favor the founding species. We joined as equals, but we've been treated as children. You are children, rumbled Elder Veloxian. Humanity has barely left its cradle. You've been spacefaring for less than 3 centuries. And in that time, we've developed technologies some of you still don't understand, Reed interjected, including the quantum stabilization systems half this chamber uses. Ilara held up her hand. We came here in good faith, but we will not stay where 17 billion lives are considered an acceptable sacrifice for a threat your scientists won't even share data on. You have 60 days to reconsider, Xalaran said, voice colder than before. After that, Protocol 94 proceeds as planned. Then you have 60 days to prepare for humanity's departure, Ilara replied, turning to leave. And everything that comes with it. Back aboard the Concordia, Ilara called an emergency meeting with her staff. The ship's conference room buzzed with tension as 20 human representatives gathered around the holographic display. Is this really happening? Asked Dr. Sharma, head of scientific exchange. We're actually leaving the council. That depends on Earth's leadership, Ilara replied, but I'm recommending it in the strongest possible terms. Their quantum communicator chimed, indicating a priority message from Earth. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Secretary General Thomas Santiago, his expression grave. I've received your preliminary report, Commander Voss, Santiago said. An emergency global summit has been called. The representatives of all nations and colony worlds will convene in Geneva in 3 days. Mr. Secretary, the Council is giving us 60 days, Ilara said, but I believe their minds are made up about Novus Prime. Santiago nodded slowly. Then we need to decide if ours are as well. The Geneva Summit was the largest gathering of human leadership in history. The United Earth Assembly Hall was filled to capacity, with colony representatives joining via secure quantum link. Ilara stood at the central podium, finishing her presentation. In summary, the Galactic Council has voted to implement Protocol 94 on Novus Prime, despite our scientific evidence that the quantum destabilization poses no significant threat to neighboring systems. They've given us 60 days to evacuate as many colonists as possible, but with our current transport capacity, we could only save perhaps 3 billion of the 17 billion residents. Secretary General Santiago took the podium. The question before this body is whether Earth should withdraw from the Galactic Council, ending 70 years of membership. This is not a decision to be taken lightly. The debate raged for hours. Some nations argued for continued diplomacy, suggesting concessions to appease the Council. Others pointed out the technological and trade benefits of membership. But as the day wore on, a different sentiment began to emerge. We've compiled a report on all human proposals and initiatives within the Council over the past decade, said the representative from Kenya. Of 341 proposals, only 27 were approved without substantial modification, and most of those 27 were minor procedural matters. The quantum stabilization initiative that could have helped developing worlds achieve parity was blocked 4 times, added the Brazilian delegate. Meanwhile, 8 of the founding species have established monopolies on essential resources in 42 sectors. As night fell in Geneva, Secretary General Santiago called for the vote. Ilara watched from the side of the stage, heart pounding as the results appeared on the massive display. Withdraw from the Galactic Council, 87%. Remain in the Galactic Council, 13%. The decision is made, Santiago announced. Earth will withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Operation Exodus begins now. Within hours, the gears of human governance shifted to crisis mode. Every space-capable vessel was mobilized for the evacuation of Novus Prime. Military ships that had been on routine patrol were recalled to key positions around human-controlled space. And most importantly, the Aurora Protocol, a contingency plan developed in secret over the past 30 years, was activated. You knew this day might come, Ilara asked Santiago as they walked through the underground complex beneath Geneva, where Operation Exodus was being coordinated. We hoped it wouldn't, Santiago replied, but we've seen the pattern for decades. The Council tolerates us as long as we provide innovation without challenging their authority. They entered a secure chamber where Admiral Helena Chen, head of Earth's defense forces, was directing operations via holographic displays. "Evacuation of Novus Prime is proceeding," she reported. "We've diverted 436 vessels and should have approximately 40% of the population relocated within the 60-day window." "Not good enough," Santiago said. "We need them all." "We're bringing experimental megahaulers online," Chen replied. "But the Council is already moving. They've established checkpoints at 5 major transit hubs that connect to human space." Ilara studied the strategic display. "They're preparing to isolate us." "Let them try," Chen said with a grim smile. "Phase 1 of Aurora is already complete. For the past 20 years, we've been establishing secondary supply chains and resource reserves outside Council-controlled space. We can operate independently for at least 15 years. Ilara felt a chill. "You really did plan for everything." "Not everything," Santiago admitted, "but enough. The Artemis shipyards in the asteroid belt have been producing vessels with capabilities we haven't shared with the Council, and our research stations on Europa and Titan have developed technologies we've kept proprietary." "What about the other species?" Ilara asked. "Some have been our allies." "We're already in discreet communication with 11 non-founding species who have expressed sympathy with our position," Santiago said. "The Council isn't universally loved, Commander Voss. We may find we have more friends than we thought." 3 days later, the first diplomatic crisis of the withdrawal erupted when a Council enforcement vessel attempted to board a human transport carrying Novus Prime evacuees. The transport's captain refused access, citing Earth's withdrawal from Council jurisdiction. "This is unprecedented," Admiral Chen told the Emergency Council as they reviewed the standoff. "The Vordaci enforcement ship is demanding compliance with Council transit protocols. Remind them that we've withdrawn and are no longer subject to their jurisdiction," Santiago ordered. "They're threatening to disable the transport if it doesn't comply within 1 hour," Chen replied grimly. Ilara stepped forward. "Permission to take the Concordia to the location, Mr. Secretary. This is a diplomatic situation first and foremost." Santiago nodded. "Granted, but take a defensive escort. The days of assuming good faith from the Council are over." 6 hours later, the Concordia dropped out of FTL at the coordinates of the standoff, flanked by 3 Phoenix-class defensive cruisers, ships whose capabilities had been carefully understated in Council registries. "The Vordaci ship is hailing us," Reed reported from the communication station. On screen, Ilara ordered. The stern face of a Vordaci enforcer appeared, his metallic scales flashing with patterns that Ilara recognized as aggressive posturing. "This is Enforcer Krell. Your transport vessel is in violation of Council regulations. Remove your military ships immediately." Ilara kept her expression neutral. "Enforcer Krell, this is Commander Ilara Voss of Earth. As you have been informed, Earth has withdrawn from the Council. That transport carries civilians evacuating from Novus Prime as required by your own Protocol 94. They will not be boarded." "Withdrawal is not recognized by Council law," Krell replied. "These are still Council spaces." "Actually," Ilara said, "according to the original Spatial Navigation Treaty of 2189, this transit corridor was established as a neutral zone. Your jurisdiction here was only through Earth's consent to Council membership, which has been withdrawn." She could see the enforcer's agitation in the rapid flashing of his scale patterns. "This matter will be escalated to the Enforcement Council," he warned. "Escalate all you want," Ilara replied calmly. "But that transport will continue to its destination without interference. If you attempt to disable or board it, we will consider it an act of aggression against Earth's citizens." The standoff lasted another tense hour before the Vordaci vessel finally moved aside, allowing the transport to continue its journey. "They blinked," Reed said quietly as the Vordaci ship moved away. "This time," Ilara replied, "but this is just the beginning. The Council won't let us go without a fight. As the Concordia returned to Earth, Ilara looked out at the stars once more. For 70 years, humanity had tried to be a good member of the galactic community. Now they would forge their own path among those same stars, for better or worse. What she didn't know was that the true test of humanity's resolve was yet to come. Rising from the ashes. 6 months after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Commander Ilara Voss stood in the newly established Independent Earth Command Center beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars. The massive underground facility had been constructed in secret over the past decade, one of many contingencies in the Aurora Protocol. The holographic display in the center of the command room showed real-time data from across human space, 17 star systems, 28 habitable worlds, and countless stations and outposts, all now standing alone against the vastness of the galaxy. The evacuation of Novus Prime is complete, Admiral Chen announced to the assembled leadership. 17 billion colonists relocated to 12 different worlds in human-controlled space. Secretary General Santiago nodded with satisfaction. And the Council. They've established a quarantine perimeter around what they're calling dissident human space. Chen replied, activating a new layer on the holographic display. Red boundary lines encircle the areas directly controlled by Earth. They're trying to isolate us, Ilara observed, cutting off our access to traditional trade routes and resource zones. As expected, Chen said, but they've underestimated our preparation. Phase 2 of Aurora has been accelerated. Our deep space exploratory vessels have already mapped 23 viable systems beyond the quarantine perimeter. Dr. Navin Kapoor, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, leaned forward. What's more concerning is the propaganda. The Council is portraying us as dangerous rebels who might destabilize the galactic order. They're particularly focused on our continued development of technologies they consider regulated. Such as, Santiago asked, quantum phase shields, gravity manipulation beyond sanctioned levels, and our new FTL drive systems, Kapoor replied. They're painting us as irresponsible children playing with dangerous toys. Ilara felt a surge of frustration. Meanwhile, they proceeded with Protocol 94 on Novus Prime last week, despite our evidence that the quantum destabilization was already resolving itself exactly as we predicted. The command center's alert system suddenly pulsed red. A communications officer spoke urgently into her headset before turning to the Council. Admiral, we're receiving multiple distress signals from Alpha Centauri. Council enforcement vessels have entered the system and are demanding the surrender of our research outpost. Chen's expression hardened. On what grounds? They claim the outpost contains prohibited technology and represents a danger to galactic stability. Santiago and Chen exchanged glances. They're testing our resolve, the Secretary General said quietly. What's at Alpha Centauri? Ilara asked, already knowing the answer. Project Prometheus, Chen replied. Our next-generation FTL research facility. If the Council gets their hands on it. They won't, Santiago cut in. Deploy the Fourth Fleet. Chen nodded grimly. The Phoenix Squadron is closest. They can be there in 40 minutes. As orders were relayed and ships began to move, Dr. Kapoor pulled Ilara aside. There's something else you should know. I've been in contact with several non-Council species, particularly the Narani and the Veshtai. They're watching our situation very closely. Potential allies? Ilara asked. More than that, Kapoor replied, lowering his voice. They've faced similar treatment from the Council. Their innovations suppressed, their expansion limited. Our stand has given them hope. The next few hours were tense as humanity faced its first direct military confrontation with the Council. The Phoenix Squadron, led by the advanced stealth cruiser Shadowrift, arrived at Alpha Centauri to find 3 Council enforcement vessels surrounding the research outpost. From the command center, Ilara and the others watched the situation unfold through quantum-entangled communications. Council vessels are demanding immediate surrender of the facility, reported Captain Diaz of the Shadowrift. They're threatening to use force in 15 minutes. Hold position, Chen ordered. Activate defensive systems, but do not fire first. The minutes ticked by. On the holographic display, they could see the Phoenix Squadron's ships taking up defensive positions around the research outpost. 5 minutes to their deadline, Diaz reported. Santiago turned to Chen. Deploy the veil. Chen nodded and relayed the command. On the display, they watched as something remarkable happened. The research outpost, a massive orbital station nearly 2 kilometers in length, simply vanished from all sensors. What just happened? Ilara asked, stunned. Quantum displacement field, Chen explained with a hint of pride. One of our prohibited technologies. The station still exists in the same physical space, but its phase shifted just enough to be untargetable and nearly undetectable. On the display, they could see the Council vessel's confused response, their sensor sweeps becoming increasingly frantic. They're hailing us, Diaz reported. Let's hear it, Santiago ordered. The harsh voice of a Council enforcer filled the command center. Human vessels, you will explain the disappearance of the research facility immediately or face military response. Santiago nodded to Chen, who opened a channel. Council vessels, this is Admiral Helena Chen of Independent Earth. The research facility you seek no longer exists in this space. Your presence in a sovereign human system constitutes an act of aggression. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. There was a long pause before the enforcer responded. This deception violates multiple Council regulations. Your actions will be reported to the Enforcement Directorate. We are no longer bound by Council regulations, Chen replied calmly. You have 10 minutes to leave the system before we consider your presence a hostile act. The standoff lasted another tense hour, but eventually, the Council vessels withdrew, unable to locate or target the now invisible research station. They'll be back, Chen said as the command center erupted in cautious celebration. And with more ships next time. By then, Project Prometheus will be complete, Santiago replied, and we'll have more surprises for them. In the weeks that followed, similar confrontations occurred across the border regions of human space. Each time, humanity unveiled technologies that the Council had either restricted or never imagined possible. Quantum displacement fields, gravitic defense systems, and subspace communication networks that couldn't be intercepted or jammed, all deployed with precision and restraint, focused entirely on defense rather than aggression. The Council's propaganda shifted. Humans were no longer portrayed as reckless children, but as dangerous dissidents hiding unknown capabilities. Trade restrictions tightened. Diplomatic channels closed. The isolation of human space became nearly complete. Nearly, but not quite. 3 months after the Alpha Centauri incident, Ilara found herself aboard the diplomatic vessel Concordia once more, but this time in a secret meeting at the edge of explored space. Representatives from 7 non-Council species had requested contact. We've been watching, said Neri, a willowy Nirani with iridescent skin. Your stand against the Council has shown what we long suspected. Their unity is built on control, not cooperation. The technologies you've revealed, added Vexcor, a massive Veshtai warrior, they match our own suppressed innovations. The Council has been holding all of us back, claiming safety while ensuring the founding species maintain their advantages. We're not looking for war, Ilara replied carefully. Earth just wants the freedom to develop at our own pace, to protect our people. As do we all, said Kala, a small but fierce Terethi scientist, which is why we propose an alternative. The proposal was bold, an alliance of independent species, outside Council control, but not hostile to it. A place where innovation wasn't feared but carefully managed by those who created it. A new path forward. When Ilara brought the proposal back to Earth, the debate was intense but brief. Within weeks, the Alliance of Independent Systems was formed, with Earth as a founding member alongside the Nirani, Veshtai, Terethi, and 4 other species. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Secretary General Santiago addressed the United Earth Assembly. Behind him stood representatives from 7 alien species, the newly formed alliance. For 70 years, we tried to be good members of a galactic community that never truly accepted us as equals, Santiago said. We believed in their principles of cooperation and shared prosperity, even when their actions contradicted those principles. He gestured to the alien representatives. Now we build something new, not in opposition to the Council, but as an alternative. A place where innovation isn't feared but celebrated, where cooperation means actual equality, not submission. The Council's response was predictable. More sanctions, more propaganda, more threats. But as the months passed, something unexpected happened. Other species began to defect, leaving the Council to join the growing alliance. 2 years after the withdrawal, the Council finally requested formal diplomatic relations with the alliance. The meeting was held at a neutral station in unclaimed space. Ilara, now appointed as Earth's ambassador to the alliance, found herself face to face with High Speaker Xalaran once more. "You've disrupted the stability of the galaxy," Xalaran said without preamble. "We've offered an alternative," Ilara replied calmly. "Species are choosing where they belong. Your alliance cannot last," Xalaran insisted. "Without our regulations, technological disasters are inevitable." "And yet they haven't occurred," Ilara noted. "Perhaps because those who create technologies are best suited to understand and regulate them." The negotiations were long and difficult, but eventually a fragile peace was established. The quarantine was lifted. Trade routes reopened, albeit with new rules and inspections. On the 5-year anniversary of Earth's withdrawal, Ilara stood on the observation deck of the Concordia once more, looking out at the stars. But now she was joined by representatives from 23 species, all members of an alliance that continued to grow. "Did you ever imagine this outcome?" asked Neri, who had become a close friend. "Never," Ilara admitted. "We just wanted to save 17 billion lives on a colony world. And instead, you changed the course of galactic history." Vexcor rumbled appreciatively. Ilara smiled as she watched the ships moving around the massive Alliance station, vessels of all shapes and designs, created by species working together as true equals. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "you have to walk away from a broken system to build something better." In the vast chamber that had once housed the Galactic Council, now half empty as more species chose independence, High Speaker Xalaran reviewed the latest reports. The Alliance territories now matched the Council's in size, resources, and population. Their technological development was proceeding at an unprecedented rate, yet with remarkably few incidents. An aide approached cautiously. "High Speaker, we've received the monitoring reports on Novus Prime." "And?" Xalaran prompted. "The quantum destabilization is completely gone." The human data was accurate. "We could have simply waited, as they suggested." Xalaran dismissed the aide with a gesture. Alone, he pondered the enormous miscalculation that had led to this moment. One decision, one colony, one stubborn species that refused to accept the established order. And now, nothing would ever be the same. The universe had irrevocably changed, not because humanity had conquered or dominated, but because they had simply walked away.